Personality NLP case study for Danielle. Since Danielle has Moola Rising in Sagittarius as her ascendant, she likely moves through the world with a fiercely independent, truth-seeking core. Moola, ruled by Ketu, is the nakshatra of uprooting. It pulls apart what's false to get to what's real. Sagittarius as a rising sign already brings a philosophical, open-minded, and purpose-driven lens. But with Moola here, Danielle's path is often about disentangling, transforming, and questioning. There's a spiritual warrior quality to her. Not necessarily loud, but quietly committed to finding her own truth and burning away illusion, even if it's uncomfortable. People may perceive her as both wise and intense, someone who sees through things quickly, asks the kind of questions that shift conversations, and isn't afraid to challenge outdated systems, beliefs, or relationships. She likely carries a restless inner compass, always sensing that there's more to uncover, learn, or refine. From an NLP lens, this ascendant reflects a dissociated and auditory-digital processing style, combined with general chunking. She thinks big, searches for meaning, and needs things to make deep internal sense, rather than being externally validated. Her attention filter is self-oriented. Danielle is likely guided by her own internal standards and beliefs. She makes choices based on resonance with her values, not what others expect. And her motivation direction here leans away from, not out of fear, but as a response to falsehood, mediocrity, or emotional entrapment. When something feels stagnant or inauthentic, she pulls back, dissects, and either transforms it or walks away entirely. In the third house, Danielle has Ketu placed in Dhanishta in Aquarius, shaping her communication style, motivation, and approach to learning and self-expression with detachment, insight, and rhythmic intelligence. The third house governs action, curiosity, speech, and deliberate effort, and Ketu here brings a subtle mastery mixed with disinterest. She may be an excellent communicator or thinker, but may not always feel attached to her ideas or words. Communication is a tool for her, not an identity. Dhanishta, ruled by Mars, gives her a structured, almost musical cadence in thought and speech. There's likely a beat to how she expresses herself, measured, effective, sometimes sharp. With Aquarius involved, there's a mental objectivity and inventiveness. Danielle likely absorbs and transmits knowledge in unconventional ways. From an NLP perspective, this Ketu placement supports a dissociative style, general chunking, and an internal, reflective action orientation. She may say less, but when she does, it's distilled and purposeful. Her motivation direction in this area remains away from. She likely avoids superficial conversations or repetitive interactions. Instead, she's drawn to innovation, precision, and cutting through verbal clutter. Her mental energy is refined, sometimes nonlinear, and often ahead of her time. She may intuit ideas or patterns before she can articulate them clearly. Others might find her mysterious or hard to pin down in speech, but what she offers is always layered with meaning. Together, Danielle's Moola Ascendant and Ketu and Dhanishta give her a psychological profile that is rooted in inquiry, emotional independence, and intellectual precision. She doesn't conform, she clarifies. She doesn't rush, she waits for truth. And whether through silence, speech, or movement, she's always following her own thread, the one that leads not to comfort, but to clarity, alignment, and deep transformation. In the fifth house, Danielle has the Sun in Bharani and Mercury in Ashwini, both in Aries, a placement that infuses her creativity, intellect, and inner fire with intensity, originality, and purpose. The fifth house governs creative expression, intelligence, romantic instinct, and how we relate to play, risk, and self-trust. And with these two powerful planets here in fiery Aries, Danielle likely brings boldness, instinct, and conviction to how she thinks, speaks, and imagines. The Sun in Bharani adds emotional richness, a fierce sense of personal power, and an internal intensity that's both nurturing and transformative. Bharani, ruled by Venus, is connected to birth, thresholds, and the power to carry and release, suggesting Danielle doesn't just create for fun, she creates to birth something real. Her creative or intellectual output likely carries weight. It's not light or surface. NLP-wise, this Sun supports a self-referencing and kinesthetic orientation. She checks internally for emotional resonance before expressing herself. She may have a sense that ideas must feel alive before she commits to them. Her motivation direction here is towards. She moves toward expression, insight, and growth through creative risk. But with Bharani's intensity, she may also carry emotional thresholds. Times when expression bursts out only after deep internal buildup. She likely thrives when allowed to create in ways that challenge and stretch rather than simply entertain. Mercury in Ashwini, in the same house, gives her mind speed, originality, and flashes of insight. Ashwini, ruled by Ketu, brings spontaneity and healing energy. Danielle's thinking is likely fast, instinctive, and energetic. She may jump to the heart of a concept before others have caught up. Her communication can be crisp, passionate, and fresh, often infused with humor, urgency, or lightness, depending on the moment. From an NLP lens, this Mercury supports a proactive action style, auditory-digital processing, and a specific chunking tendency. She's quick with words and thoughts, and may prefer fast-moving intellectual environments where she can respond in real time. However, Ashwini also lends her a mental independence. She may get easily bored with slow or repetitive structures, preferring fast starts and intuitive pivots. Her ideas likely come in sparks rather than steady flows, and her voice carries conviction, even when she's just exploring. Together, the Sun in Bharani and Mercury in Ashwini in the 5th house give Danielle a creative, intellectual engine powered by emotional fire, fast cognition, and a fearless approach to self-expression. She's not just a thinker. She's a builder of ideas. She doesn't just speak, she ignites. Her NLP profile in this area points to someone who learns through doing, communicates through feeling and instinct, and thrives when allowed to initiate boldly, create from the gut, and move in rhythm with her inner flame. In the 6th house, Danielle has Venus placed in Mrigashira in Taurus, giving her a graceful yet discerning relationship with work, service, self-discipline, and how she handles tension or imperfection. The 6th house governs daily habits, responsibilities, problem-solving, and how we manage both conflict and routine. And Venus here brings beauty, harmony, and relational intelligence into those often demanding zones of life. Mrigashira, ruled by Mars, is a nakshatra of curiosity, searching, and emotional subtlety. In Venus's own sign of Taurus, this placement suggests Danielle brings aesthetic sensibility, emotional intelligence, and steady charm into her approach to work, health, and interpersonal dynamics in task-oriented settings. She likely prefers routines that feel emotionally grounding and sensually pleasing, where comfort, beauty, and subtle order go hand in hand. She's not just task-oriented, she's relationship-conscious within structure, likely noticing the small nuances of interaction in professional or day-to-day spaces. From an NLP perspective, Venus in this position reflects a kinesthetic and visual processing style with a specific chunking preference. Danielle likely notices fine details, how people move, speak, or shift in tone, especially in close working relationships or environments that require collaboration. She may process tasks and people with soft precision, sensing when something's off before it becomes visible. This placement also brings a strong internal reference frame. She knows when something feels right and doesn't need constant feedback to stay aligned. Her motivation direction in this area is a subtle blend of towards and away from. She's drawn toward beauty, balance, and functionality in daily life, but instinctively avoids friction, disharmony, or overly rigid environments. She may have a calm but firm way of exiting emotionally draining work dynamics, not dramatically but with clarity and elegance. Venus in Taurus also gives her endurance. Once she's found a rhythm, she's incredibly loyal to it, especially if it supports her sense of well-being. Overall, Venus in Mrigashira in the 6th house gives Danielle a refined, emotionally intelligent, and practical grace in how she handles stress, structure, and service. She's someone who brings calm to chaos, aesthetic flow to structure, and subtle emotional awareness to the often overlooked corners of everyday life. Whether in creative work, caregiving, or routine settings, she operates best when beauty, rhythm, and meaning are woven into the task at hand. In the 9th house, Danielle has a powerful stellium, Saturn in Uttara Falguni, and Jupiter, Mars, and Rahu all in Magha, all in Leo. This cluster brings a strong sense of purpose, spiritual ambition, and principled action to her worldview, higher learning, teaching style, and sense of destiny. The ninth house governs belief systems, moral codes, long-term vision, and the urge to understand life's greater meaning. And with 4 major planets here, this domain is central to how Danielle lives, leads, and learns. Saturn in Uttara Falguni adds a steady, responsible, and relationship-aware foundation to her beliefs. Uttara Falguni, ruled by the sun, brings a quiet leadership quality. She likely holds herself to high standards and feels a sense of moral duty or ethical clarity when it comes to sharing knowledge or holding space for others' growth. NLP-wise, this Saturn placement gives her a general chunking style, a self-referencing frame, and a towards motivation. She's drawn to create order in abstract spaces and to build systems that uphold integrity and mutual growth. Her beliefs are tested, lived, and slowly earned, not adopted blindly. Alongside that, Jupiter, Mars, and Rahu in Magha create an intensely driven and legacy-conscious approach to philosophy, teaching, and life purpose. Magha, ruled by Ketu, is the nakshatra of ancestral pride, lineage, and karmic responsibility. Jupiter in Magha gives Danielle expansive wisdom, but also a regal sense of why she believes what she does. Her frameworks are not just intellectual, they are part of a deeper spiritual continuity. NLP-wise, Jupiter here supports a general chunking style, a wide conceptual lens, and an auditory-digital filter. She speaks from inner authority and likely seeks to guide, mentor, or elevate others through knowledge and structured insight. Mars in Magha adds energy, conviction, and a commanding tone to her belief systems. She likely defends what she believes fiercely, and once she's claimed an idea or principle, she acts on it decisively. Mars here brings a proactive action style, often kinesthetic. She feels when it's time to act on a vision, publish a truth, or step into a teaching role. She may have a bold, even confrontational relationship with dogma. Not to disrupt for the sake of it, but to refine what's outdated. Her drive is fueled by legacy, dignity, and the desire to leave behind something lasting and noble. Rahu in Magha, amplifying both Mars and Jupiter, introduces intensity, originality, and karmic hunger into this mix. Danielle may feel called to challenge tradition, reclaim ancestral wisdom, or innovate within spiritual or philosophical systems. Rahu magnifies ambition, especially around recognition for her intellect, teachings, or thought leadership. From an NLP lens, Rahu here strengthens her towards orientation and brings a high-voltage visual-auditory blend. She likely sees the path before it forms and articulates it with vivid clarity. Together, this stellium gives Danielle a commanding and visionary presence in matters of belief, knowledge, and higher purpose. She's not just here to understand, she's here to shape the philosophical space she occupies. Whether through writing, teaching, mentoring, or leading from principle, Danielle carries the energy of someone building a mental spiritual legacy rooted in strength, discernment, and karmic continuity. Her NLP drives here point to a structured visionary, emotionally aware, intellectually exacting, and motivated to turn clarity into contribution. In the 11th house, Danielle has the moon placed in Chitra, bringing emotional creativity, aesthetic intelligence, and a subtle drive for meaningful social engagement into her relationships with community, collective goals, and long-term aspirations. The 11th house governs how we connect with groups, how we envision success, and how we experience gain or recognition through our social role. And the moon here suggests Danielle is emotionally attuned to collective energy, with a desire to create beauty, harmony, or structure in the spaces she shares with others. Chitra, ruled by Mars, is the nakshatra of the divine architect, connected to design, vision, and refined creation. The moon in this placement makes Danielle emotionally responsive to the aesthetics of interaction. She likely notices how people behave in groups, how things are said, how aligned or misaligned the energy feels. She may have a strong instinct for refining the emotional tone of a group, whether through soft leadership, emotional containment, or creative redirection. There's an inner need for things to not just work, but to feel right and look harmonious. From an NLP perspective, this moon supports a kinesthetic and visual processing style with a tendency towards specific chunking in social and collaborative contexts. Danielle may track emotional microshifts in group settings, who's offbeat, who's aligned, who needs anchoring, and subtly adjust her own presence to create coherence. She may feel fulfilled when she's contributing emotionally and creatively to something larger than herself, especially if that vision reflects order, harmony, or legacy. Her motivation direction here is towards. She's pulled toward people, projects, and collectives that feel visionary and refined, especially those that allow her to express her emotional and aesthetic intelligence. However, being in Chitra, there's also a self-refining undercurrent. She may hold high standards for herself in group roles and could be sensitive to disharmony or emotional inconsistency in shared environments. When the space doesn't match her inner rhythm, she may withdraw quietly or turn inward to recalibrate. Altogether, the moon in Chitra in the 11th house gives Danielle a presence that is both emotionally elegant and socially strategic. She likely navigates community spaces with intuition, taste, and subtle emotional leadership, bringing vision into form not by force, but by sensing what's needed and offering it with grace. She may not always seek the spotlight, but her ability to align group energy with creative purpose makes her an unspoken anchor and quiet visionary in any collective she joins. Overall, NLP Drives for DanLP profile reveals a powerful fusion of emotional intelligence, philosophical depth, and internal clarity. She navigates the world with a rare combination of instinct, precision, and vision, driven not by external pressure, but by a deep inner compass. Her personality is built on uncovering truth, refining purpose, and expressing what feels meaningful, often with quiet strength, emotional subtlety, and a deep respect for timing. Her dominant processing styles are kinesthetic and auditory-digital. With the moon in Chitra, Venus in Mrigashira, and a Moola Ascendant, Danielle processes experience through feeling and resonance first, tuning into the body, sensing the emotional undercurrent, and then organizing it through thought. At the same time, placements like Mercury in Ashwini, Saturn in Uttara Falguni, and Jupiter in Magha give her a logical sequencing ability. She can sort, filter, and structure information through a private, clear, and often instinctive internal dialogue. Her insights are not just emotional or rational. They're fused, intuitive, and analytic. Her chunk size is dynamic. In belief systems, life philosophy, and legacy pursuits, 9th and 10th houses, she leans toward general chunking. She seeks broad patterns, archetypes, and life themes. But in creativity, speech, and interpersonal settings, 5th, 6th, and 11th houses, she becomes highly specific, noticing tone, timing, nuance, and aesthetic alignment. This balance allows her to move fluidly between visionary thought and practical refinement, seeing both the forest and the trees. Her motivation direction blends both towards and away from with high sensitivity. She is towards structure, coherence, integrity, and meaningful contribution, drawn to ideas, people, and environments that help her grow and align more fully with purpose. At the same time, she has a refined away from pattern, especially with inauthenticity, emotional noise, or systems that waste her energy. With Ketu in the 3rd and Moon in the 11th, she likely pulls away from superficial socializing or forced expression, preferring clarity over quantity in her interactions. Her frame of reference is deeply internal. Danielle doesn't look to others for permission to believe, speak, or act. With a Moola Rising, Sun in Bharani, and Saturn-Jupiter-Rahu-Mars cluster in Leo, she operates from a personal code, tested, refined, and rooted in lived experience. Even when she listens or collaborates, she calibrates through her own inner sense of rightness and rhythm. Her beliefs, values, and decisions come from deep within, often formed in solitude or through direct intuitive insight. Her action style is a balanced blend of proactive and reactive, tuned to emotional clarity and timing. Mars in Magha gives her presence, decisiveness, and the ability to act from centered authority. But Ketu in the 3rd and Venus in the 6th suggest that she may sometimes pull back, wait, or quietly realign before taking visible steps. She acts most powerfully when her body, values, and timing all agree. Danielle thrives in environments that are purposeful, clean, emotionally intelligent, and forward-thinking. She likely prefers autonomy within structured frameworks, where ideas matter, integrity is honored, and there's space to recalibrate without pressure. She does her best work when her why is clear, her vision is respected, and her intuition is allowed to guide. Altogether, Danielle's NLP drives reflect a mind built to transform, refine, and elevate. Not through force, but through hot emotional coherence, principled clarity, and elegant timing. She is both seeker and architect, visionary and technician, someone whose inner landscape is rich with purpose and whose outer expression is marked by depth, precision, and quiet brilliance.